Right. Okay, ladies. So, does postcode matter? So, I think you could take this one in multiple different ways. Take it from my point of view. So, I am based in Winterton, so it's a seaside town, and not many people know of that area, and they probably wouldn't relate it to aesthetics as such. But who am I to say where aesthetics should take place? I think in terms of pricing and things like that, maybe I'm probably expensive for my area, but I think I use premium products. I've done all manner of different training to get where I am, so I think my price is justified to my postcode, and I don't think, in my opinion, that postcode should play any role in what you pay, and things like that, because it depends on what service you're getting, what the practitioner's skill set is, and maybe even aftercare as well. All of those things should be considered when even looking for a practitioner, no matter what postcode. People tend to, someone could live 5 minutes away from an aesthetics practitioner, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go to them because maybe they're not the right fit. You attract your tribe, as I say.
I think with postcode as well, there's people that are like, it's almost like the hierarchy. I go to a doctor, those comments, you'll get someone who goes, so I go to Harley Street, and they don't realise that anyone can rent a room in Harley Street. But people automatically think maybe the London postcodes are better, and they look at that and they don't look at the smaller towns around and think you'll find a great aesthetic practitioner there. So obviously I'm from Wales, repping the Welshies, but we're always behind the time with aesthetics. So we always tend to be a little bit slower than everyone else in moving on. So when I first started, there wasn't a huge amount of clinics around. We've just hit our booming phase of non-medical injectors. They're kind of popping up, so which is affecting kind of price point for us. So I would again say I was probably one of the more expensive price points in my area, but again think it reflects my training, my qualifications, my aftercare, the support, everything that we give as a clinic. But I think postcode shouldn't, but it does play a part in your practice, unfortunately.
I agree. I think, if I hear, I've had, even last week, I had a young lady came to see me last week. She had been living with Tyndall in her tear trough for 7 years. The bluest I've ever seen. Poor thing, honestly. I felt so sorry for her. And when I asked, she said, but I had it done in Harley Street. And I just and it's like, it doesn't mean anything. And I think, don't get me wrong, there are certain postcodes I would love to have a clinic in. I'd love to have, for me personally, I'd love to have one in Kensington. I'd love to have one of this. I'd just love, not because of any other reason, just because I'd love to have a beautiful space.
And it's a beautiful area.
A beautiful area, a beautiful space. But I'm not subscribing to that because I think that ultimately will make me look better. I think a lot of people are worried about inviting people to the clinic. I mean, I love my clinic. I always say that, don't judge me till you're inside, because, it isn't Harley Street. You're not walking down a prestigious area, but I'm not there for you to appreciate the wildlife. I'm there for you to appreciate what's happening on inside. So it doesn't really bother me. And the fact is that what I looked at when I was building this current business, and so where this current premises was, is the space big enough? Is it purposeful to want to use it for? I needed 5 clinic rooms, a training room, a kitchen, which half the time looks like loose women, all the girls in there waffling on, and free parking. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I wanted. And I, of course I had this vision in my head, and I've still not found it yet. A 2-story mezzanine floor. I have this image in my head. I've not yet found that space. And when I do find that space, I'll jump at it. But I needed something that worked for me and my business and where I was going. And it works for me. I literally found it and moved it. That's what I wanted. And I think that should be the factor. I also know a lot of people who overcommit. They choose a postcode. I mean, I remember going to see a very, very well-known doctor many moons ago in Harley Street, presented on Instagram as celebrity doctor, the best thing since sliced bread. I turned up, came to have my treatment, and was led down copious amounts of stairs to a room that was no bigger than what is now my bathroom, or half the size of my kitchen. And I remember going in, and there was this bed in one room and a sofa in the other, where his assistant was sat on the chair typing up the notes. And I thought, wow, this is not what I envisaged. Not that it mattered, but I thought, I've just paid £3,000.
Yeah.
I was walked in a room, consulted with on a chair, told to go back into a waiting room with about 20 people all waiting to go into a million other rooms in there, stood there with a face full of numbing cream, feeling really quite vulnerable and judged, to go back downstairs, have my treatment, and by the way, was left waiting for 2 hours. Really irritated me, as if his time was not as important as mine. But that's a conversation for a different day. And and went downstairs, and I thought to myself, where's the experience?
Yeah.
Where was the experience of going into what felt like a production line, didn't get offered a glass of water, was shoved back out in a waiting room with numbing cream on, have spent $3,000, and now I'm currently walking to St Pancras, like, with a sore face.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, and I never did it again.
Yeah.
So I pursued that individual based on the way they were presented, but actually the practicality of that experience made me go elsewhere.
Yeah.
The postcode didn't maintain me.
So patient experience is better than postcode.
100%.
Definitely, because
And
you're not purchasing, you're not there to buy, I don't know, you're not walking around to buy that space. You're
Well, you're
just
not
there
Instagramming
for
it, are you,
exactly.
really?
Well, unless you ask, because some places do give people money off treatment for advertising.
Of course they
Obviously,
do.
that is a different kettle of fish, another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But they have spent money on that space, and again with Postcode, and they want it to be seen, they want it to be all over Instagram and all over whatever social media outlet it may be. But again, that doesn't mean that because you've been misled, that doesn't mean that the experience is any
less
good.
But it also doesn't mean it's any less if you're anywhere else. And I think we have one of the things that I always talk about with the girls is, it's the small details. It's how comfortable the chair is, the temperature of the room, how they're greeted. Even in my reel that I did yesterday, consultation begins the minute they look at you. How are you conveying? How are you engaging? How are you communicating? Is that information and transparency there? Is it professional from the minute till they leave? Are they getting a follow-up email? Are they getting all those little things, or do they feel like they're on a production line, in and out, bang, bang, bang? And that's not okay. We are not in a supermarket. We're healthcare professionals. We need to remember that. The standards need to go up.
We've got a fight on our hands, though, because people or patients automatically assume that the postcode is important. 100%. And when they look for things, if they've never had an aesthetic treatment before, they do think, oh, well, if I go to Harley Street, or if I go to London, or if I go to a capital city, I'm going to have a better experience.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true. And then when you are in the smaller towns, people look at your prices and they do think, oh, well, she's overpriced. But if you compared some of our prices to these larger London clinics, we're probably not overpriced. No. Not at all. But
I think
hard.
it falls into like another hierarchy, doesn't it? Of like
huge postcode hierarchy.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got practitioner hierarchy, like
There's
you were saying.
There's the name of the podcast, hashtag.
Yeah.
Postcode hierarchy.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a hierarchy of, I've had my treatment done by doctors, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's any better or any worse than if you had it with a nurse or any other medical professional. And then again, I had mine done in Harley Street, and you've got exactly the same issue going on.
And can we just say, disclaimer, we're not just bad-mouthing Harley Street.
Not.
We're just using that as an example.
Exactly.
There are a lot of other
we
great
love Harley
postcodes.
Street.
We
love doctors.
Nothing along anything about. We're just using it as an example because it's the most obvious one. Just I get that.
It's a known street that everyone knows of when we talk about it.
Yeah, bragging rights that you got it done there. But no, I think, and as well, I don't know if any of you know of practitioners that work in two separate places.
Travel.
I always I never really understood that in terms of complications and risk
I think
involved.
as well that's sometimes used as an advertisement hierarchy because they make themselves look bigger and better.
I'm
by
travelling
saying,
around.
I travel around, like people want me, so I go to X, Y, Z, and you see it all over social media. But again, I think sometimes you don't have to travel if you give the patient experience. People will travel to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got friends who've got clinics here and a clinic in Spain, a clinic there, and that's different. If it's, you know, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. You know, life is short. You want to enjoy it. You want to make it, you know, let's be honest, no one wants to work in one room every day, day in, day out for the rest of their life. Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to have fun. It's nice to change things up a little bit. But I do get your point, and I often say that, you know, if you come in there and they're only doing one-off clinics, where's the follow-up?
Yeah.
Where's the experience? Where's the patient care?
But it's even like complications 3 months, 4 months
Absolutely.
down the line of, you know, inflammatory issues that they've got going on. How do you manage that from 400 or 500 miles away?
If you do a pop-up clinic, because that's what they're called, pop-up clinics, and then it's not successful, or for whatever reason it wasn't worth the hassle, what happens if you don't go back?
Yeah.
Where do those patients then go? Are they then expected to travel?
Yeah, I think it does prove the point, though, that there definitely is a postcode hierarchy, because if you look at the lists of, like, the prices, people have different price points for different areas, and I don't know why.
Because like Kate said, if Kate went to her beautiful clinic in Knightsbridge, she'd still be Kate.
Yeah,
You're still going to get the same Kate that you get in Kent.
Get out of here. You don't belong here.
Exactly.
Your tender is not
in the
good
same
to you.
products.
Yeah,
the same. It's just a different place.
The same Kent Kate.
Absolutely.
Sort of if you go to Knightsbridge, you just have to you'd have a ton more outgoings.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's relative, isn't it? You know, wherever you go, the prices are going to be different. And that's just the way it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think, but the prices that you charge should always outlay your context. Like, yes, the first thing is who you are, your training, your background, your experience in the industry. That should come as a premium. You know, you should have that. But on the same respect, you are going to need to increase that price because of your postcode. And if you're renting a room by the hour, which we all know happens in multiple postcodes, and if that's the case, then are they actually getting that value for money, or are they just paying the premium for the postcode that they're visiting? And I think let's not forget the people who are listening to this podcast are practitioners. And what I would say to anyone listening to this is, do not feel less of a practitioner because you don't travel about. Do not feel less of a practitioner because of the location, because of your postcode, but also be inspired that if you do want to go and work elsewhere, if you do want to go and rent a room by the hour in Harley Street, be empowered to do it.
Yeah.
Just be safe.
Just do it. Do what you want to do, but just remember that it doesn't mean that you're a better practitioner. No. It doesn't matter what you do. I want the message to be clear that it doesn't matter what you do. You're free to do what you want to do and should have the confidence to make that decision for yourself. But don't do it for the wrong reasons. Yeah. Don't do it because you think ultimately it will navigate you and propel you into the realm of the VIP injectors. Yeah. I mean, it may well. That is the level of our industry. It may well do that, but it shouldn't.
Or it could just end up leaving you out of pocket and then...
Very stressed.
But I think if it's out of fear of kind of lack of patients or patients not coming to you or not getting the right set of patients, I do think kind of... Postcode shouldn't have anything to do with
there's
that.
other alternatives that you can look at that we will cover with the Nurse Network at a later time that you could do to try and get patients or improve your practice instead of paying huge premiums just to put yourself in Harley Street and still not get patients.
And I think, you know what, as a final note, just remember patients will travel. You know, I've got people who travel 3, 4, 5 hours to see me. I fly to Scotland for my friend to do my face. People will travel. It's all about what we value. You know,
definitely.
Of course it is. So a great note to finish on.
Indeed.